We all want to stay informed, right? But wading through all the tech specs and reviews can honestly be exhausting.
Totally. It's information overload sometimes.
Exactly. So that's what we do here. We try to cut through the noise and pull out what really matters. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a review of the Sony Xperia 10 VI smartphone.
Ah, yes. This was interesting. It's not really trying to be the flashiest phone out there. It seems like it's aimed pretty squarely at someone who wants something a bit more manageable size-wise, but still practical.
Right, hitting that balance between, portability and features you'll actually use day to day.
Hmm.
So our mission, let's say, is to figure out what makes this phone tick, especially if you're looking for something that, well, fits in your hand comfortably and does the job without feeling like a giant brick.
Sounds good. Where should we start? Design.
Yeah, let's start with the feel of it, how it looks, and how it handles.
Okay. So the review uses terms like compact elegance and focused practicality, which I think sums it up nicely. The first thing you notice is the 6.1-inch display.
Which is definitely on the smaller side these days.
It is. In a world of huge phones, this feels like a deliberate choice for people who want easier one-handed use.
Yeah.
And that 21.9 aspect ratio helps too, makes it narrower.
We'll get more into the display later, but yeah, that tall, narrow shape is kind of Sony's thing, isn't it?
It is. Though it's worth mentioning that 21.9 ratio is great for movies, but sometimes for like standard 16.9 videos on YouTube or whatever,
Yeah.
you might get those black bars on the side.
Letterboxing, yeah, a trade-off.
Exactly. Sony's leaning into the cinematic and the grip comfort.
Okay, and the finish, the review mentions a matte black.
Yeah. Understated matte black. Apparently quite good at resisting fingerprints, which is always a bonus.
Definitely, and it's light.
Pretty light, yeah.
Mm.
Around 161 grams, the review says.
Yeah.
So if you're used to heavier phones, you'd probably notice that immediately. Feels solid, though, apparently, with a metal frame and curved edges for comfort.
Nice. No sharp corners.
Right. And the review mentions this idea of functional minimalism. Like the bezels are there, they're minimal, but it's not trying to be completely bezel-less. It's practical.
Okay. And what about practical things like SIM cards and storage?
Good question. It's got a dual SIM hybrid slot, so you can use two SIMs, or you pop out the second SIM and put in a micro SD card instead. So you can expand the storage beyond the built-in 128 gigs, which is, well, pretty handy.
Yeah, that flexibility is useful. Okay, let's talk about that screen then. The 6.1-inch 21.9 OLED.
Right. The review really highlights the movie watching experience. That wider aspect ratio means films shot in, CinemaScope formats fill the screen better. Less black bars top and bottom.
Ah, okay. And being OLED, you get those really nice colors and deep blacks.
Exactly. Vivid colors, true blacks. And the review mentions good peak brightness, too, so using it outdoors shouldn't be a problem.
And you mentioned the aspect ratio helps with grip, but does it help with anything else?
Actually, yes. Multitasking. The review points out that the extra vertical space makes split-screen mode feel, well, more usable. You're not quite as cramped.
Oh, I can see that. Like you actually have room to see both apps properly.
Mm-hmm. And another benefit of OLED, especially with darker themes, is power efficiency. Plus, it has that always-on display feature, which sips battery.
Always helpful. Now, what about the refresh rate? I saw it mentioned 60 hertz.
Yeah, it's an adaptive 60 hertz,
Mhm.
which, look, for most everyday things, scrolling, email, social media, it's perfectly smooth.
That's right.
But, if you're a big gamer, especially playing fast-paced action games, you might notice it's not quite as fluid as phones with 90 hertz or 120 hertz screens.
Right. Refresh rate being how often the screen updates per second. Higher means smoother motion.
Exactly. So it's one of those areas where Sony seems to have made a specific choice, maybe balancing cost or battery life.
Okay, so performance-wise, for that everyday stuff, how does it hold up? It's running Android 14.
Yeah, Android 14 and a mid-range chipset. The review says it handles the basics: email, messaging, browsing, social media effortlessly, like really smooth for those core tasks.
So no major hiccups in day-to-day use.
The review does mention occasional hesitation with really demanding apps, but the overall takeaway seems to be a smooth experience for what most people do most of the time.
Okay.
And that split screen thing we talked about, the review brings it up again here, saying it feels natural because of the screen shape. And apparently app switching is generally pretty snappy, thanks to the RAM looks like 6 GB or maybe more, depending on the region.
So they've balanced it, maybe not for like high-end mobile editing or complex AI stuff, but fine for normal use.
Pretty much. It aligns with that focused practicality idea. And speaking of software, the review really praises Sony's approach.
How so? less bloatware.
Yeah, apparently very minimal bloatware, just the standard Google apps and Sony's own music, album, and cinema apps. Makes for a much cleaner feel out of the box.
That's always welcome. No one wants tons of apps they can't uninstall.
Right. Plus, the review mentions timely software updates and the benefits you get with Android 14, like better privacy controls and notification management. Good for the long run.
Okay, let's shift gears to the camera. The review seemed quite keen on this part. Something about optical zoom.
Yes. This seems to be a major selling point. It's a triple lens system, but the key thing is it offers 3 optical focal lengths: wide, ultra-wide, and telephoto.
And optical is better than digital because...
Because digital zoom just crops the image, basically throwing away pixels and losing detail. Optical zoom uses the actual lenses to magnify the image before it hits the sensor, so you keep much more detail and sharpness.
Nah, gotcha. So it's like having different lenses built in.
Pretty much. The review talks about crisp photos, natural colors, good dynamic range. The main wide lens is solid in good light, as you'd expect.
And the others, the ultra wide.
That one has a 120-degree field of view. Great for, big landscape shots or getting close to buildings.
And the telephoto. How much zoom?
Around 2.9x optical zoom, apparently. So you can get genuinely sharper close-ups without that digital mushiness.
Nice. How about low light? Often a challenge for phones.
The review says it's commendable. There's a night mode that stacks multiple exposures to reduce noise, and the sensor size probably helps capture more light.
Okay. And video?
4K on the main camera, 1080p on the others, and the electronic stabilization is apparently pretty effective at smoothing out handheld shots.
Good to know. Okay, next big one. Battery life. Especially on a smaller phone, you worry about that.
Right, but the review suggests it's actually a real strength here. It has a 4,500 mAh battery, which sounds pretty decent for the size.
And how does that translate in use?
Apparently, it easily lasts a full day of moderate, maybe even heavy use, which is impressive.
Wow, so what's the secret?
Likely that combination again. The efficient OLED screen, the fairly modest mid-range processor not drawing tons of power. The review mentions screen-on times over 6 hours, which is a solid metric.
That's really good.
Yeah. And Sony includes some battery care modes, too, designed to prolong the battery's overall lifespan by managing how it charges. Smart if you keep your phone for a few years.
Okay. And charging itself. USB-C.
Yeah, USB-C. Supports up to 30W charging. The review notes it's not the absolute fastest out there.
Pretty decent.
Yeah, gets you about 50% charge in roughly 30 minutes, which seems fine for most people.
Yeah.
Just no wireless charging. There's one feature it misses.
Ah, okay. A trade-off again. Some people love wireless charging for the convenience.
They do.
Yeah.
But maybe the strong battery life makes it less critical here. You don't need to top up as often.
Fair point. What about durability? Dropping it, get it wet.
Always a concern. It's got an IP65-68 rating.
Which means?
Dust-tight and water-resistant. The 68 part usually means it can handle being submerged in fresh water, typically like 1.5 meters for 30 minutes. So, rain, spills, maybe even a quick drop in the sink shouldn't be fatal.
That's reassuring.
Definitely gives you peace of mind. And the front glass is Gorilla Glass Victus, which is pretty tough against scratches.
Still probably want a case for drops, though.
Oh, absolutely. But good baseline protection. The warranty seems a bit variable, though the review says it can be anything from 1 to 36 months, depending on where you buy it, so registering it is important.
Good tip. Okay, nearly there. Connectivity and any little extras?
Covers the main bases. You've got 5G, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2, NFC for payments.
All the usual suspects.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And crucially, for some people, it still has a 3.5mm headphone jack.
Hooray! A rare breed these days.
It really is.
Right.
A big plus if you prefer wired headphones or just don't want to deal with charging wireless buds.
Totally. What about speakers?
Stereo speakers.
Yeah.
The review calls the sound balanced, good enough for calls and, casual YouTube watching or music. Not going to blow you away probably, but functional.
And any other bits? Fingerprint sensor?
Yeah, side-mounted fingerprint sensor built into the power button. Pretty standard, usually works well. Oh, and a dedicated Google Assistant button if you use that.
Right, those little quality of life things. Okay, so wrapping this all up. It sounds like the Xperia 10V isn't really playing the numbers game, is it? It's not about having the absolute biggest screen or fastest chip.
Not at all. It feels much more focused on practical innovation, prioritizing things that matter for a certain type of user.
So the key takeaways seem to be that manageable, compact size, the decent OLED display suited for its aspect ratio, that genuinely versatile camera with the optical zoom.
Yep, plus the clean software experience, the really solid battery life, and the durability features like water resistance.
It really does paint a picture of a phone for someone who values, well, substance and portability maybe, over just having the flashiest specs on paper.
I think that's a great way to put it. It seems like a really compelling package if those are your priorities.
Definitely something to consider.
Which leads us to a final thought for you listening. Thinking about this balance, the features, the size, the focus. What compromises are you actually willing to make to get the smartphone that feels right for your needs?